Okay, let's get started. This is actually Peter's photo, I believe. It's from the 140th anniversary in 2012. Can somebody name all the pastors? I should have a little prize or something.
Pastor Robert Jenkins.
Yeah.
Is that great country?
I think Pastor Chuck.
Okay.
Chuck Hasty. And then Chuck, Kathleen, I think. Kathleen and Massachusetts.
So that's Jeff Powell.
Can you use the cursor?
Jeff Powell.
I have a cursor.
And is it Jeff Powell? Is that Mary Thorkelson?
Yeah.
And then Barry.
Very Dawson.
What's his name?
Associate.
Mandy is next. Mandy and
Mandy.
can't remember.
Bill Eckert.
Yeah.
And then after that,
Was he Pastor Adam?
no, that's Pastor Matt. And then it's-
Barbara Lund.
Yes.
Barbara Lund and Matt Harden.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the lesson is associate pastors may get forgotten. So,
Well, a couple of them weren't here very long, I don't think.
I'm sorry?
A couple of them were not here very long.
Oh, I see. That's okay, so chapter 7, I kind of start as like a Bible study of sorts, kind of a reflection on the earthquake, because 2011, in the 2010s, I think that was a defining event in Japan. And since we're expecting another one in this country, I thought it's worthwhile to kind of dwell upon how the earthquakes are portrayed, what they mean, symbolized in the Bible. Can I get 3 readers for these 3 passages? Beginning with Matthew 27. And I figure since it's Easter, it's a Holy Week coming up, it would be timely to read. Can somebody help me read Matthew 27? Yeah, and
Matthew 27, verses 52 to 52. Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised.
Matthew 28:1-2 says, after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord, descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it.
Acts 16:25-26. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was an earthquake so violent that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's chains were unfastened.
what do you notice about these passages and how the earthquakes appear in the Bible?
It's all sudden.
It's all sudden? Yeah. And I contrast it with Noah's flood. I think Noah's flood is it's categorically bad. It's a judgment. It's apocalyptic. But I think earthquakes can also be a renewal and liberation. So I think it's much more ambivalent than the flood. But I guess the problem with tsunami is it's a flood and the earthquake. But not all earthquakes are positive. I think that in the book of Revelation, earthquakes obviously accompany kind of the apocalypse unraveling at the end of the world. So, this was a 19th century English portrayal. I think it might have been a textbook or something of what they thought of the earthquake and that the end time could look like. So I think many chapters I kind of start with a kind of a broader, kind of a political, economical, cultural background in Japan. And the 2011 triple disaster, I guess many of you have lived through it, so I don't need to spend much time on it. But it was among the 5 largest earthquakes ever recorded in history. And and the greatest one in Japan. And tsunami rose up to 50 meters or like 50 feet, which is taller than this building. And then I think you get a sense of if you see that the cars here, how high the waters rose. And the trickle refers to the earthquake, the tsunami, and then the nuclear crisis, nuclear meltdown in Fukushima. And there were about 20,000 dead, about 250,000 people were displaced, and about 1 million buildings were damaged. And Prime Minister Naoto Kan said then that the tsunami was the worst crisis since World War II. And then Emperor Akihito issued a rare imperial announcement, which the emperor hadn't done since the end of World War II. So this was a defining crisis of modern Japanese history. And how it affected us was about a third of the congregation left Tokyo. So, and feel free to stop me for questions or comments anytime. And so the earthquake happened at 2:46 p.m. and I think it got to the coast of Japan within like 10-15 minutes. Regions like Sendai, so it happened very quickly. And how it affected Tokyo was the subways couldn't run anymore. Were any of you stranded in Tokyo that day? You walked home. Yeah, I think a lot of people walked home. Some people took buses and taxis, but I think most of Tokyo moves through the subway. So once the underground subway stops, millions were stranded in Tokyo. And how TUC responded? So this was Friday, and then Pastor Matt and Pastor Mary were working remotely. So it was a staff that had to pick up the work. Megumi-san, office administrator, Masanori Harada, finance manager, and then Kazunori Iguchi sexton. They opened the church as a refugee shelter. And I was told about 50 people stayed overnight. The pew cushions that we cleaned lately, they slept on those, and I heard they laid them out all throughout the sanctuary, in the lobby, all across the building. We kind of became a one giant hostel, like a sleepover of sorts. And we're also providing food with onigiri supplies. So it was an emergency. And Megumi-san told me she also stayed overnight to help people contact their families, because the cell service cut out. So the vaccine was the way to tell their loved ones that they were safe. So that.
She couldn't have gone home either.
Yeah, I think she was stranded also.
She had no choice.
Yeah, she had no choice, but and I heard Pastor Barry walked here like 2 or 3 times from the man's to check on everybody. And then we quickly formed the Tohoku task force. Were any of you on it as part of the outreach team? I think Dima Kato was a leadership figure in it. And we started collaborating with Japanese churches through the National Council of Churches in Japan, which is a big denomination umbrella organization for a lot of Japanese churches. And we ended up supporting these 3 partner churches. And I think you will have better numbers, but I think we gave at least 1 million yen to each of these churches. And then we were also donating to other kind of regional charities like the Iwate Learning Fund. We sent a lot of volunteers. This was a choir singing at the Senmaya United Church of Christ after their sanctuary was rebuilt. So a lot of their buildings were damaged. Some were like wiped out completely. I think one of the churches was like moved a few feet after the earthquake. So yeah, we had joint worship with these churches, and then these pastors also came and gave testimonies. Do you remember? The 2 of the pastors from these Tohoku region churches kind of gave us an update. Yeah, I think it was a testimony during the service, and I think they kind of gave us a class about how it was. And then I think they also served communion together with our pastors. And Pastor Berry says about our response that the shaking of the earth could have provided an opportunity for some people's faith to be shaken. At TUC, however, the earthquake provided an opportunity for us to experience and express faith at deeper levels. Our faith is not just hiding within a church building. but more importantly, engaging the world in the name of Christ. So, yeah, I think Peter likes emphasizing how mission-driven Pastor Barry was in his ministry. This says that this shows that too. And then we also did community outreach here. I guess first of all, we sent a lot of food, clothes, and supplies up to Tohoku, and then several TUC members visited shelters and temporary housing. They were teaching. I think Kiko was teaching Ikebana. Julie Fukuda wanted to teach bolting, and I think a lot of the ladies of the church baked a lot of cookies and other bread to send to Tohoku region, especially around the Christmas time. And Takeshi Shimizu, now the worship elder, he also led a trip to ARI, because all ARIs are students from all over the world, and then they had to evacuate the campus. So the team of TUC volunteers kind of helped the place get back to where it was. And then he wrote a bit, like a piece in the Koinonia magazine, TUC Church magazine, after his visit, and he said, ARI aimed to redeem this nation not only from the grief caused to neighbors in the past, but also the grief that separated us so drastically from God. We've had a long-standing relation to World Institute over the years, and Rich Gardner, I think, is very involved with that. So he's written a beautiful essay about ARI also. Dima also brought Hard Meat, which was a non-profit that empowers displaced women to make sweaters, gloves, and other needwear. And we're having a sale at the church porch. We did it for 7-8 years over the summers and Christmases, and that raised more than 2 million yen in the first 3 years alone. And I think 2015 was a big year. It was more than 1.3 million yen in sales. And I was told they had hundreds of sites where they were selling their goods all over Japan, but we gave them the most money. This is like the prime real estate. It's a picture from that at Dima. Do any of you remember this?
Yeah.
And highlight transition. Good morning. I don't have a good transition as to, but why? I guess I was talking about Pastor Barry in the chapter. Pastor Barry had a fondness for congregational lunches, and then Suresh, how do you say his last name? Is it Gupta? Gupta, yeah. Suresh was kind of a star chef when Pastor Barry was wanting to do all these meals with churches. Suresh has been at TUC for about 2 decades, and he served as an elder for about elder for fellowship for about a decade. And he's also went to hotel school and was trained as a chef. One month he said he prepared more than 20 meals of more than 20 days for church events, like Mon or Alpha Group, which is an introduction to Christianity. And Pastor Barry Sayonara Potluck also featured cuisine from 16 nations, including, I just went ABC, Australia, Bulgaria, and Cambodia. Australia and Bulgaria, you can probably guess who they may be, but Cambodia, I don't know who it was back then. Cambodia also. So yeah, I don't think I've seen such a good international cuisine potluck since I've been here.
You haven't? And you have to do one.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe for my side, not right.
What does it mean, Suresh often received 12+ turkeys?
This is over Thanksgiving. So we used to have a big Thanksgiving. I was trying to find a picture from the time. We used to have a big Thanksgiving dinners at TUC. But I think that was when we identified more as an American institution. And because kind of the Thanksgiving is America's defined as our high holiday, we used to have a big feast. But Peter Warp, do you remember? Any of you remember Elder Peter? Peter? Yeah, I was told he was an elder and he worked at the U.S. Naval Base, and he donated a lot of turkeys for us, and then the proceeds from that would go to Mon.
Also, lots of rice to the
Lots of rice.
like truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Suresh said he'd make more than 10 different types of salad to go with the turkeys. And then I love how he said, when I cook at home, I'm not good, but when I cook at church, the Lord guides my hands. And then this is from the first book, Buy It and Try It. Do any of you have the book? This was a popular cookbook from the mid-20th century. It went through multiple editions and it was translated into Japanese also. And it was kind of the women's group of the church sharing their favorite home recipes. And so yeah, we were a cooking church. I hope we can continue cooking.
Actually, Keiko's son had a book out too.
And I think she was teaching a class also. And so,
But that's before this.
yeah, I think that was like 90s or so earlier on. She was a kind of a celebrity, minor celebrity chef. And so we're lucky to have her. And then I talk about planning for the next earthquake. Because the last time when we had a major earthquake in Japan was in Tokyo area was the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake. More than 100,000 people died from that. And if you kind of track when the mega earthquakes occur in Tokyo, it's every century or every like century and a half or so. So we are overdue for an earthquake, unfortunately. And seismologists, those who study earthquakes, say the likely of a major earthquake in Tokyo within the next 30 years is 70%. And then the Japanese government said as recently as last year, and then when that does happen, it could claim up to 300,000 lives in the Tokyo region alone. So, in response to that. And so the TUC, after the earthquake, we formed a property task force with President Jody Fuller, Pastor Randy, and Elder Ikuko, who's an interior designer, and then Maki, who's an architect. And they gave us a report of recommendations as to what we can. Joe, were you involved with this? Yes. Also, yeah. As to what we can do with our land and then with our property, especially given that we may be hit by a major earthquake in the upcoming decades, upcoming years. And in 2012, the land that we're on was valued at 5 billion yen around, and the romance was valued at about 250 million yen. And then so this report gave 4 proposals as to what we can do. We can sell the lands and house the pastors on this plot. Just me now, but Mr. Lydia, if you want to live here. But that's, yeah.
Also, the reporting also included the stability of this church.
Yeah, it's the next slide.
That's the next slide. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got the architect. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just the proposals first. And then the plan 2 was kind of fundraising for a new building. Or we could sell the land and rebuild elsewhere, as we've done in the past. And then the 4th option was split the land title with a developer. That sounds complicated. It doesn't seem that big of a land to split, right? So, but yeah, I think that was kind of the latest report on what to do with our campus, with our property, with our land. And then part of that report was, they asked you, right, to find structural engineers to kind of examine the safety of the building. And Kawaguchi engineers, how did we decide on them?
Well, they're very famous. They're the ones that did the Olympic Stadium up here.
Okay.
And they're very famous in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So,
Let's see. Yeah, because the engineers for this building was not them.
No.
It was somebody else, I remember. So, and this is a model that they built. Where was this?
Here. You mean a picture?
Yeah. We don't have that
He
anymore.
was painted here.
Oh, was this room?
Yes,
Was this room?
In this room, yeah, here.
Oh, I see. Why did we get rid of it?
the building that has cross beams on both sides, and that's what keeps it sturdy. Every floor, the cross beam.
And this was in the way or something?
Right.
And then, so the Kawaguchi engineers told us that even though the expected lifespan when we built this church was 50 years, so it was to expire in 2030, but they said we're good for another at least 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? And then we shared that in the annual report of 2016, 2017. You're not very safe inside this building.
So we're safe until.
We started our building fund back in 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you gotta add that. That's when we started the building, from the present building fund.
Oh, I thought
We
this
had
was,
zero money.
so it wasn't Campaign for Tomorrow of,
Oh, no.
that's after, okay.
Campaign of Tomorrow just started at our anniversary 3 years ago.
150, yeah.
3 years ago, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a building fund that began during
It
this,
began, yeah.
during this time also. Because I think there was like 500,000 in that fund. Is that same as the Campaign for Tomorrow fund?
No.
Or it's a separate fund? It's a
Separate.
separate building. Okay. Yeah, but then Kawaguchi told us that inside of the church we need to revamp the water pipes and ventilation, so that needed a lot of work. And we also redid the fellowship hall in 2017, so many of you will probably remember. And I wrap up this chapter with Pastor Johan and Henny, because I see a lot of Henny's writings in Koinonia. It was, in 2013, Pastor Johan and Henny was the first non-American and non-native English speaker senior pastors at TUC. And I have some people that told me it was hard to understand at times, but that didn't matter because he was so gracious and warm and kind.
A little bit out of the southern accent, pastor, we used to have one.
Pastor Bruce,
Bruce.
was he hard to understand?
Or Japanese if he was.
Really?
Yeah.
He was also a Baptist.
Yeah. The
That
first
makes it
and,
harder to understand.
the first and only, right? And Henny had worked as an editorial manager of the Bible Society of South Africa. So when she got here, she joined the Bible study, Koinonia magazine and Women's Society. Yeah, I was told like Pastor Johan was basically present at every church gathering. And I think Henny was similar. And in her farewell column in 2019 in Koinonia, she kind of tells the story of how she grew up in South Africa and New York. And how the church was the place where the family kind of prayed and played together. The church kind of really held the family when they were moving back and forth. And then the two met each other because at the same university in South Africa, apparently the Faculty of Divinity and then I think Faculty of Dramatic Arts was what she studied. It was in the same building. So that's how they met. And they also share losing their first child as an infant. And then she kind of leaves us with this writing to exhortation to don't give up. God is at work in every season. God surprised me and the preacher man by adding a late harvest trees in my life when he called us to Japan. And Nancy Matthew Pearson, who served as an elder for worship with Pastor Johan. She says, Pastor Johan and Henny just opened their arms and embraced the whole church. Henny was one of the funniest people I've met, and they were wonderful.
And she passed away 10 days ago.
Yeah, that's why.
I spoke with Pastor Johan 2 days ago.
Oh,
There he is.
Wow, he looks good.
He's had a stroke.
No.
He can speak well,
Okay.
but he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But he's doing good.
Yeah, he's doing good. Very happy. He says he misses Henny, of course.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you for sharing.
He's still in South Africa.
Yeah, yes, Johannesburg.
Any questions about chapter 7? It's not everything in the chapter, but you can read the book if you don't have everything in the chapter. So last chapter is about the 2020s, and then the pandemic in the digital era, I title it. And this was reading the Psalms group, the picture that kind of arose during this time, 2020. Rich Gardner, formerly a professor at Sophia University, professor of religion. He starts this Psalm meditation contemplation virtual group because he feels there's a pervasive loneliness. I didn't get a chance to cover that in the slides, so that's why I have the picture now. But 2010s, you really see kind of this growth in interest in the contemplative traditions of Christianity, I think, within TUC. I think Peter going to Richard Rohr's school for, is it Action and Contemplation or something? A famous mystic writer. I think he was definitely a contributing factor. Pastor Matt was very interested in these monastic contemplative traditions of Christianity. So we started Tessa service during the 2010s, and the labyrinth walk we do in the sanctuary, that was also 2010s, and then I think this was just last year that Reading the Psalms group visited, or maybe earlier this year, Reading the Psalms group visited a monastery December last year. So.
We had also retreat at this place.
Oh, you did?
TUC?
TUC did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, about 10 to 15 people there.
Oh, wow.
Was it past the day? I can't remember.
Those retreats get mentioned somewhere, the ones that we had. I'll ask later.
Yeah.
Are the retreats that the church went on a couple of decades ago mentioned in this?
Yeah, 90s.
Yeah,
and
the
then
90s.
what a party it was in the Condonia magazine. Yeah, a lot of drinking and dancing, it looked like, from the way they wrote about it in the Condonia. I mean, fellowship for other things too, but I think the New Year's party was like kind of a...
The New Year's ones, like,
yeah,
okay.
there was prayer and rest and fellowship also, but I heard the New Year's, at least the way our alums wrote about it, New Year's was a big party. So the pandemic, I think we all remember. I think we all are living with its legacy still in many ways. And it caused more than 7 million deaths worldwide, but 1.2 million in the US, and then 75,000 in Japan. So in Japan, it's one of the nations that handled this crisis the best in the world. It's the lowest mortality rate among the industrialized, affluent countries. But Japan also had strict border controls compared to other democracies. So they called it like Sakoku 2.0, kind of a lockdown, closing off of the country during this time. And remember this language of like flatten the curve? We all have to keep 6 feet apart.
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and was it like 1.8 meters, 1.5 meters here?
Yeah, I remember we used to have like a stick.
Annika was going around and helping us to keep distance in church.
Yeah.
Stay away. So
Yeah, what's the measure?
yeah, I think we all experienced homecoming, offices, schools, and churches, and a lot of our interaction moved to virtual space. And we didn't have any virtual infrastructure until the pandemic. We were very much live in-person church until then. And so January 16, 2020, got the first reported case of COVID-19 in Japan. And then 3 days later, Pastor Steve is installed. So, Pastor at TUC, I don't think he knew what he was signing up for. So, yeah, Pastor Johan had told Pastor Steve that TUC is like the easiest church to work with because the members are so like proactive and just doing everything. And Pastor Steve said he brought like 5 guitars with him because he wanted to write a lot of songs. This was going to be this like the last chapter of his pastoral career. But he got like super busy and he didn't get to write a single song. And Pastor Steve was here in the 80s, as the late 80s as an intern. He was with us. You remember, right? So, and then he came back a seasoned pastor. And then I think the part of what he said helped make him feel at home was he visited us in 2019. And the flea market was happening at the time. And he saw that the flea market was happening the same way as it ran in the 80s. And then he was thinking, the church hasn't changed that much. I know this congregation. And he became the first non-white senior pastor at TUC, first senior pastor of Japanese descent. And this is Time Magazine saying 2020 is the worst year ever. I think World War II was probably worse, but... So our initial response was February 23rd after worship. We have a special meeting with healthcare professionals, members of the church, to figure out our next steps. And then when World Health Organization declares a pandemic on March 11th, we cancel all large gatherings at church. Live stream worship began on March 15th. And this was like 2-3 days. This was like right after, I think March 11 was 2 days after Ash Wednesday. So this would have been just like we would have been in Lent at the time. And it gets about 200 views live, our first live stream. And over the course of the week, another 200 viewers. And I think Jonathan said this number peaked at around over 1,000 during Easter. People who join us. So we had traction right away. I think people knew how to find us online. And the online worshipers could use live feed to send their prayer requests. In July 2020, 8:30 a.m. In-person service returned for the 8:30 service. But Ayumi talks about attending one of these, and she said there were less than 10 people, even at the 8:30. Ayumi told the young adult. And Pastor Steve also told me there was tension among different church traditions about how we should respond to the coronavirus. Some felt that because God is protecting us, we can meet as we should meet. But I think the admin team at church kind of decided we're not going to have meetings. And Pastor Steve said we really felt like we had to hold our line and protect the people and the church's name by being good neighbors and citizens. In July 2020, we launched this Online Ministries 2.0 fund to upgrade our digital infrastructure. And we get a pledge of $60,000, matching anonymous gift of $60,000. And by the end of 2020, we have more than $120,000 in this fund to buy equipment. And this is June Lee working an AV booth, which didn't exist before the pandemic. And Jonathan O played a key role in setting up the live stream and our Zoom space. And so Jonathan had come to Japan as a tent-making missionary. He's ordained with the Presbyterian Church of America. And Pastor Johan and Henny, so Jonathan kind of moonlights, or because it's his day job, as a weather reporter at NHK. And have any of you seen Jonathan on TV? You all have.
No.
What's his weatherman presence like?
No difference.
There is his pastoral presence. Yeah, and Pastor Johan and Henny, they somehow found out that Jonathan was a missionary. And so they reached out to Jonathan, and Pastor Johan says, I didn't know that our favorite weathercaster is a theologian. So that kind of gets them talking, and Pastor Johan invites Jonathan to preach during TUC's Youth Sunday in 2019. So that was his beginning of his involvement. And he soon moves into coordinating YAG, the young adult group. And Jonathan also supervised Fuji Fellows. Do you remember this program? I think Pastor Ivan kind of pioneered this. I think it was to train kind of Christians to be evangelists in the workplace. I think there were 4 fellows in its inaugural year, but I don't think it lasted long, right? Maybe after the pandemic, so Jonathan was overseeing that, and then the pandemic happened, and then he set up the worship live stream within a week. We didn't miss a single week of worship at TUC during the pandemic. And then the first worship broadcast we had was from Jonathan's gaming capture card. I actually don't know what it means. What is a gaming capture card? Does anybody know? Yeah, and then he said he had to buy like a video switcher, audio mixer, and microphones to get our online worship going. And then he's another one of those YAG couples, young adult group, and he meets Rachel. Oh, now I don't know what her last name was before.
Lana.
700.
Okay. And they have their first live stream wedding. Their wedding was the first live stream wedding was at TUC. So, and Jonathan told me because not many could join them in person, but like hundreds joined them online, so he was grateful for that. And he cried his eyes out when Rachel came in and everybody saw him. So, and this is Jonathan preaching at West Tokyo Union Church. It's also part-time. It's part-time here and part-time there. And this is at the Lutheran Seminary in Mitaka. He's doing a children's sermon in Japanese. And he said about the AV team here, that AV volunteers who used to push buttons for projections learned to move cameras with some growing pains, but it's now an orchestra of machines and people. And as we saw June at work in the last slide. And then we invite Pastor Hector, and he was kind of a pandemic hire also, because during the pandemic, not the mission, kind of the prerogative of the role kind of evolved to, we wanted somebody who could do digital ministries. And Pastor Hector had worked with the Office of Digital Learning at Princeton Seminary, where he went to school. So he was familiar with like, the online interactions, the Zoom rooms, and online broadcasts and everything. And 2020 September, we called him as an associate pastor, and he begins work from California because the borders hadn't opened. And later that year, there's a like small window that the borders did open, and then we did Pastor Hector in during that time. Catherine says it's a miracle that they were able to come. That is closed down soon after. And so his debut sermon was preached from California, and it was titled God's Speed, Patience and Prayer in the Good Samaritan. And he cites a Japanese theologian, Kosuke Koyama, and he preached, he exhorted us to challenge the culture of speed, productivity, and efficiency so that we could be attentive to our neighbors, our wounds, and God's presence and action. I think as we grow more connected, as we grow more digital heavy, that's even more important. I think the time away. And in the Koinonia, kind of a profile about him, mentions that he was baptized as a Catholic, and then he went to a Latin American church in LA that was formative for him and his family. And he says the two most formative church internships he's had were in Korea and then in Switzerland and Presbyterian churches. In Korea, he worked at like a mega church, and in Switzerland, he worked at like a small church. And I think he shared with us if he didn't have that experience, he wouldn't have be an associate pastor here. And yeah, as to why he came to Japan, he says, since I was 13 years old, I've dreamed of living in Japan. Healthy consumption of anime, matcha, and tuna hand rolls fueled my desire to live in Tokyo. So I haven't really seen him have matcha and tuna hand rolls anymore, though. He may have grown out of them. But maybe anime still watches, I don't know. And then he also made history by becoming the first associate pastor to be, promoted may be a wrong word, but to be called again as a senior pastor. And he also became the youngest senior pastor in our 150-something year history. Yeah, this was at his installation as a senior pastor. His whole family's there. If you have any questions about this slide or the slide before, you can ask Jonathan and Pastor Hector directly. And this is my last slide as 150th anniversary. Thank you, Pastor Leah. And I'm guessing many of you are present there, so I don't need to elaborate much. And so the headliner event during, I think it was an 8-year-long celebration. Right? But we had an event called Meet, Pray, Love that opened with Pastor Steve's lesson on the history of TUC. I actually watched it online before I came here. It's on YouTube. And we also had a TESS service for peace in Ukraine. And I read about this part, but this part was kind of confusing. Like the TUC children discussed 150 acts of kindness that they can do to commemorate our 150th anniversary. That's like a lot of acts of kindness. Was anybody there? Or yeah, I read so in the books, but I didn't really know how that worked. And Nick Ashley was a vice president at the time, and he's a creative designer, and he was a marketer, and he was a creative force behind the 150th anniversary. I think that tagline might have been his, right? Might have been his idea. And he said, Catherine Sasamima was a big driving force who enveloped the event in prayer. And Maki and Mikuko worked hard on the event, and they put the footprints outside, so people will come in. They put balloons everywhere, and photos of the good old pre-pandemic times. People still at home and get people coming to church again. And we also had like a big banners outside that said "Community of Love for All People" and "House of Prayer for All Nations." And the finale event was a virtual fireside chat with American filmmaker Martin Scorsese. He turned the novel Silence, Endo Shusaku. Endo Shusaku has visited our church, Women's Society in the 70s. We talked about his work. He lived in Harajuku apparently, so he was our neighbor. And that was turned into the film in 2016. And our elder for evangelism, I think he's maybe moving to Osaka soon. Yeah, he worked with Martin Scorsese on the Silence film. So Kane and Pastor Steve interviewed Martin Scorsese, and then he said he wanted to be a Catholic priest when he was young, but he became a filmmaker. And that was a full sanctuary, and it had more than 5,000 views online, so that was a successful event we had. And from this celebration, the campaign for tomorrow also emerges, and we're trying to raise 1.5 million before 2027. And I think we are almost halfway.
We have 1 million.
We're more than halfway.
Yeah, more than halfway.
Yeah, so I guess we're on track.
And we need 500,000 this year.
Oh, it's 3 years until
This year we need 500,000 to meet the deadline.
Oh, okay, yeah, it said 3 years from 2024, so yes, I thought it was 2027, yeah, because we're trying to meet that by 2026, okay. So, and then Catherine said, an endowment will help stabilize our church if and when we face future trials after 3/11 and after pandemic. I think there's a sense that we're currently facing a crisis, and the endowment will help us operate with less stress. So that's it. Thank you for today, and then for everybody who's attended many classes and many workshops over the past year and a half.
I'll give you an update on the building fund. We started the building fund in 2011. And we were 30 years into the building, and we had zero money for the new building, for our new building. So we decided to start the building fund. We were lucky to receive an inheritance from one of our long-term members that kicked it off.
Oh, I see.
And now we are 3/4 of the way to our goal to rebuild the building. We hope to do that, rebuild, in 6 or 7 years from now.
Oh, okay.
That's 3/4 of the way there.
We're 3/4 of the way there. A lot of it's because of the end.
Oh.
But our money's in dollars, so I can bring it back.
So now would be a good time to bring it back.
Yeah. We leave it up to the Lord when we need the money.
I see. So are you allowed to reveal which options?
Russell.
Joe,
Yeah.
are you allowed to reveal which of the 4 options seem most likely for now?
I don't think that conversation's been had.
Yeah.
Well, most likely two.
Oh, okay. Reveal
Or,
here.
excuse me, one.
Oh, Seldom-Mans and House of Pastors here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or, well, I don't know if it would be here or on a different block. There's
Oh.
also been conversations about, we could, I mean, I don't know, I've been
Rent.
involved, but like, there's lots of different conversations that have been taking place. I don't think anything has taken place formally. Elders, might not be.
The smartest thing to do is number one, because that's the smartest thing to do, because the property the Nancy's on is valued quite high.
Right.
And that would help with the building. And we need 2 stories here, to have a 3-bedroom apartment in each story. And we put it on the top, and we would have a separate elevator for the pastors. That's the thinking, or my thinking.
Right.
Wow, penthouse in Busan도.
2 penthouses, yeah, 2 penthouses of 3-bedroom, you know.
There was actually a redesign plan at one stage for the current 4th floor to be turned into a second manse. Didn't go ahead, but
No, not second manse for the associate pastor.
the associate, a mini manse, a second
Mini-manse.
church property. There were plans developed to turn that 4th floor into a livable apartment
But it was voted down because the youth would not have a place to meet.
Right.
with a space issue.
If it's option 1, rebuild with the longevity of the building, would increase with the renovation.
Oh, build a whole new building, so we have another 50 years.
Oh, rebuild. Okay, I see.
Rebuild, yeah.
Rebuild.
Tear this down and rebuild.
Okay.
And how does the imminent earthquake, impending earthquake fit into that calculus? Because is it better to have a new building?
So Japanese earthquake laws change almost every year.
Right.
Luckily, they changed in 1980, and this building was built under the new earthquake laws in 1980. Been built, and since then, every year they've been made stricter and stricter. So you build a new building now, you're no problem.
Right. I guess my thinking was that it's probably better to, if there's a big one coming in the next 30 years.
Build after the
Yeah, well, it's better to like rebuild after the earthquake or
Rebuilt to withstand the earthquake.
to withstand the earthquake. So,
No, we wouldn't. They don't be built to withstand earthquake, yeah.
okay. I guess whoever lives will pay or live the most in the earthquake will come. Any other questions or comments?
You know, the Omotesando Hills used to be Joe-san, like Dojunkai apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Was, and some elementary school also rebuilt by the concrete. Recovery from the earthquake.
Right.
That was a long time ago.
Steel enforced concrete was
Yeah.
done after the 2023,
Right.
1923. Steel reinforced concrete.
The Lutkai building is right across from the church. And when Tada Ando developed the Omotesando Hills, he maintained that
Yeah.
historic.
Yeah. And one of the apartments, or 2 of the apartments are still there.
I wonder how the small group gathering looks like before COVID, because I joined TUC during COVID, it's all technology driven.
Yeah.
The next year is all technology, like online. And then I hear from my friend, like before COVID, there was like in-person Bible study class for Yaggers. There was a small group like 10 years ago, and I don't know how it was like. So if you know anything, do you know?
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of Bible studies. And I remember Pastor Mandy telling me one of the Bible, she had like these 2 Bible study groups, and they read pretty much the whole Bible, like cover to cover in a year.
Oh.
So it was, yeah, they were serious Bible study groups.
There used to be in person in this room on Wednesday night prayer meeting.
The prayer meetings too, I think Gene Wilson was like very involved with that. Yeah, but I think it stopped after the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
They just never brought it back.
Choir would come in for rehearsals on Thursday nights. Upstairs. Alpha ran programs.
There's a women's Bible study now, twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the questions or themes that I'm thinking about as I write a conclusion. I have one, but I'm still thinking about it. And we're asking Pastor Hector to write an epilogue. And do any of you remember Richard Young?
Yeah, Richard, yeah, oh, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
he's at Princeton, yeah, oh, you know him from Princeton.
Yeah, he was supposed to be my advisor, and then I got there and he retired me my first year.
Retired.
Yeah, that's how, okay, he didn't tell me he was going to retire when I was applying. And that's how I got Dr. Cotter. He kind of stepped in to save me.
Richard wasn't active here, his wife Allison was very active here in the church.
Yeah.
Richard would just come occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I think Richard taught a lot of classes here.
Yeah, he taught classes, yeah.
And he's agreed to write the foreword of our history project.
Yeah.
But
I think it was a Meiji Gakuin, wasn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
He said he will submit by the end of this month. I haven't heard back from him yet, so if you know it, you can nudge.
Anderson also had a class for women's society.
Oh, okay.
Irish
She did that.
Yeah.
And there was another toddler meeting in the morning, Wednesday morning or something.
We had a lot of Bible.
Yes.
Even in Sundays, for this hour, if you look at the Bible classes, you would, I want to join that and I want to join
Yes.
that. All at the same hour.
Yeah.
And so you're like, where do I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Hugh Wilkinson used to do Bible studies for Japanese young people, right? I think maybe down in the kitchen. Yeah, there were a lot of, yeah, and I think Gene Wilson said it. We were renting the Kawai, not Kawai, what's the piano company?
Collect.
It is Kawai, okay. We're renting like the upstairs, a room there, because this building was filled to the brim. And
Oh, yes, because the youth Sunday school class would go, there was a family who lived at the top of the street here, in one of the houses. I remember the kids would go up there for Sunday school hour because there wasn't enough room to have Sunday school in all the classes. Is it this way? Yeah, it might have been the Myers house. Yeah.
Another person who had very good Bible study class for Japanese
who did?
for Japanese was Yugo Suzuki.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was at Aoyama Gakuen,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
Japanese.
yeah.
Right.
He's the one I was trying to connection with his
Oh,
wife.
okay, yeah. Suzuki, yeah, I've seen her use the name a lot in the documents.
And she's been
She
there very regularly.
was very involved. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.